Hi, I'm Chelsea from Feel Good Events, and today we're going to be running through the top 8 things to consider when choosing a venue for your event. There's a lot to run through, so let's jump right into it. Number 1 is budget. This may seem pretty obvious, but it does dictate a lot of what you can and cannot do. If you are having plans of a huge ballroom gala with hundreds of guests, but it's not in your budget, you're going to have to redirect what your event is and where you can host it. So do your research early and make sure you check the budget of a venue before you get your heart set on it. Every venue will calculate their costs differently, so these are some ways they may be going about charging. Minimum spend. Most venues will work on a minimum spend, either over the bar or food. Venue hire plus minimum spend. Some venues will have a venue hire fee that is not counted towards the food and drink. This fee will purely cover the cost of hiring out the space. These venues will also generally have an in-house catering that you have to use. DIY venues. These venues are blank canvas type spaces where you can bring all of your own suppliers. Number 2, guest list. If you are wanting to create a high energy, fun event, you're going to want to be careful that the space isn't too big or too small for the amount of people you have attending. If it's really big, you're going to feel really empty and quite lost in the space. It may feel a little bit awkward at the event. And if it's too small, obviously it's too crowded and it's going to be not enough space for you to move and dance. So you want to make sure you find that sweet spot where it's nice and enclosed and it feels nice and homely, but it isn't too big. Some people create their guest list before looking for a venue. That way they know the amount of people they're going to have there and they can find venues according to that. Other people may do it backwards, where they want to find a great venue first and then create their guest list based off how many people that space can hold. Whatever way you decide to do it, you need to make sure that your venue space and your guest list correlate. That sounds easy enough, but unfortunately there are mistakes that people tend to make at this stage of planning that are really important to plan around. So you need to remember, your invite list is not an accurate amount of people who are going to be attending your event. You may have people who don't show up. You might have people who want to bring their kids along so they can't get a babysitter. You may have people who have plus ones. So your initial invite list is never going to be a great indicator of the amount of people who actually do show up to your event. So here are 2 tips to try and work around those uncertainties. Number 1 is to set an RSVP date that gives you well enough time to plan according to the actual amount of people who will be showing up. And the second tip is that you should choose a venue that's going to fit around half of the amount of people you invite. Now I know that may sound crazy, but it's better to have a venue space that is a little bit more crowded than when it is way too large. You don't want to be going to a party where it feels empty and awkward. A fuller venue is always going to create a better energy than an emptier one. Also, if there are any kids that are going to be in attendance, you want to consider maybe allocating a space for them during the event. Maybe set up some activities, some things to keep them entertained, and also to keep them separated from the alcohol if that's something you're going to be serving at your event. Number 3, location. You want to make sure that your event is one that everyone can easily get to. Remember, you're the one doing the work, not them. If you plan to have your event in the CBD, but the majority of the guests are coming from over an hour away, that's already a hurdle that they have to overcome before even attending the event. People might choose to leave early if it's a really long drive home, or they might even not show up at all if it's going to be too hard for them to get there. Choosing a venue that's close to public transport is another great way to get around this, especially if your guests are going to be drinking. It's a good way to ensure that they can get home safely. And finally, you want to make sure there's going to be some good parking options for those people who do choose to drive. If you think it's going to be a bit of a tricky spot to find parking spaces, you should go to your venue before the event. You should scout out for some good parking spots. Maybe there's some hidden side streets, and let your guests know before the night. A good rule of thumb for how many parking spaces you're going to need is 1 car space per 3 to 4 guests. Number 4 is access. If you are wanting to bring in your own decorations, furniture, dance floor, DJ, lighting, any of that kind of stuff, you need to make sure that you have enough time to bring that stuff into your event space and enough time after the event to take it all out. If you have a really short amount of access time to set up and to pack down, you're going to be spending more on labor costs because we're going to need more people to set it up quicker. So it's actually going to be more expensive for you in the long run if you don't check some of these things before booking in. Some questions that are really important to ask your venue before you book are: how much time will you have before the event to come into the space and set up? And also at the end of the night, how much time will you have to pack it all down and take it away? Does setup need to happen the day of the event, or can you come in a day earlier and get that out of the way? Will everything need to be packed up on the night of the event, or can you come in the next day and take it all away? The more time and flexibility a venue allows you, it's taking away so much more stress and, like I was mentioning before, costs. So you really want to make sure that you have a really good understanding of the time frame your venue is going to let you have before you book with them. Number 5, inclusions. Does your venue already include bar and catering services? Is it already fully decorated and furnished? Knowing exactly what you're getting with your venue space can help you plan further things. If they already have a caterer, you don't need to worry about organising food. Number 6, when? The date and time that you choose to have your event can actually limit your options on where you can book your venue and also can change your cost. If you are planning to have it during a really busy period or on a weekend, some places have higher charge rates for those busy periods. It can also be hard to have availability. They may already be booked out. The best way to avoid missing out on that venue due to availability is just to book as far in advance from your event that you can. Number 7, layout and flexibility. Looking at the floor plan will help you give a really good idea if this is the right venue for your event. So, what is a floor plan? A floor plan is a scale drawing that shows the room, spaces, and other physical features viewed from above. A floor plan basically provides the visual of a space. If you want to have everyone up and dancing at your party, you need to make sure there's enough room for a dance floor. Simple as that. The floor plan will actually give you a really good indicator of the energy and atmosphere that you're able to create in this space. What you should be doing is looking for a venue with 1 or 2 different dedicated party spaces and avoid places that have separate rooms for these different spaces. Having different rooms will separate the guests and it'll just bring the overall energy down. So try and keep everyone together. And finally, number 8, theme and style. So the last thing to consider before booking your venue is what theme do you want your event to be? Choosing a venue that acts kind of like a blank canvas can help you give a lot of freedom when decorating the space. You can do kind of whatever you want to it, and it can be a really great starting place if you're really not sure. On the opposite side of the spectrum, however, you could choose to go with a venue that already has a lot of character to it. If you are wanting to do a jungle theme, choosing a venue with a lot of greenery will really help enhance that theme. However, if you want to go with a venue that has a lot of character, you want to make sure it actually fits with the theme. If you're doing a retro 70s disco style, but it's in a ballroom, those things are going to clash and your theme is going to come across a little bit confused. Right, so that's the list. Those are the 8 things to consider before booking a venue for your event. If you're from Melbourne and wanting to work with Feel Good Events, we always encourage you to give us a call before you book just so we can talk you through some of these things and make sure that the venue you're booking is perfect for your event.